Welcome to a pre-vacation week episode of La Ventanita. I'm your co-host Carlos Frías, the food editor of the Miami Herald, along with my soon-to-be departing for at least a week co-host Amy Reyes.
Hi. You're gonna
So
miss me so much.
I'm gonna miss you so terribly. I mean, you're the reason people tune in. Honestly, is to get a break from my foolishness and to hear your foolishness.
They all want to have my hot take on Kendall and indigestion. That's what everybody's here for. They need to know these things.
Yeah, and you're going to be taking a little bit of a break of a week or so, which is
Dude,
great.
And can I tell you, my
because you need it.
stomach
I know
needs
you
a
need it.
break. My stomach needs a break. Like, I have done all the eating in the past 2 weeks, and I don't think I ever want to see food again.
I think it's funny that you and Connie are really feeling it, and like what I tell you all the time, this job,
I can't eat
eating
anymore, Amy.
eating for a living, it's so fun, it's so great, and then you do it, and then you're hurt, and you understand. You're understanding my pain, so.
Well, you know something? That's why I kind of understand the reason why you wanted to get that sandwich press, because right now all I want to eat are cheese sandwiches.
Yep.
Like that's all I want. Just a cheese sandwich and a glass of water. Like, that's it.
The fancier you eat out, and especially for work, the more simple you want to keep it at home, which is like chefs all the time, routinely, their favorite thing to eat is like a burger.
You know something? I one time went to it was this guy who had a food truck up in that it was the brewery in Doral. I think it's called the Tank or something.
Uh-huh.
And he was making the most amazing meal for all of us. I went with Evan Ben. This was ages ago.
Yep.
And it was a food truck that was like some well-known chef, but I already forgot his name.
Is it the Twisted Fork? A guy by
I
the name
can't
of
remember. It might have been that. Yeah, but everything was amazing.
Plasencia is his last name, I want to say. Yeah, I think that's probably it.
Dude, everything was amazing. And when he came out to sit with us, he literally had a bowl of cereal. Like one of those bowls of cereals that they give you with the free breakfast at school. It was just like, I think it was actually Fruit Loops. He had a bowl of Fruit Loops and he was eating a bowl of cereal while we were like eating this amazing banquet. And I was like, I kind of get it. I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because anything that requires very little effort, and just like it requires no mental energy. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, I as you mentioned, I'm taking my sandwich pressing to the next level. Like I mentioned with Mariano, I was like, I got this commercial press, and I was like, man, I'm gonna have to rewire. Yeah, there it is, right there. There's a picture of it right now. I was like, I'm gonna have to, do some rewiring in the kitchen to get it to work on this one particular circuit, which is where I want to keep it. But I said, you know what? Let me plug it in and see, like, let me use it for a little bit. And dude, my family just wanted sandwiches all weekend.
Yeah, I don't blame them. Look,
like
oh my
pressed
God, look at that
sandwiches.
sandwich.
I mean,
Sandwich is
really,
beautiful.
it's amazing. Like it takes, it heats it so perfectly, because it heats on the top and bottom element, and so it really just gets them like a perfect kind of heat. And I've been playing with the temperature, and I was like, we all just like fell in love with this thing. So, but then I put it over on my counter, and I'm like, God, it's this big piece of commercial equipment, and I'm all about like clean lines and things being slick. Yes, like things.
Yeah, your
things have to
kitchen
be.
has your kitchen has like a spatula, and then a dish towel.
Everything is put away because
Yes.
I need everything to be like clear so that
Streamlined,
my mind can be cluttered. Only one of the two things can be cluttered. So I found this guy online, and actually their shop is in Hialeah, and it's I gotta find the name. It's because I want to give them a shout out. So they do like appliance polishing and plating. So I took the machine over to the guy. And he's kind of sitting, it's a tiny little space. I can't stress more than it's just a little counter. And he's in the back, and his I don't know if it's his work partner or also his life partner. She's out front, and he's just eating his lunch. And he sees me bring in the machine, and I had talked to her about it. And he's eating his lunch, and he kind of peeks back over his shoulder, and then he looks further back, and he turns around completely. He's like, man, this thing is really cool. And I tell him my idea is to make it the most beautiful looking commercial sandwich press.
So extra.
Dude, it's gonna be polished.
You're so extra.
Polished brushed stainless steel with like brushed brass highlights.
Dude.
He's creating a handle for it, because if you see that picture, it's like a big black handle the one where I'm buttering the toast. There's a big black commercial handle on it, and it's very commercial looking. And he's gonna actually build like a brushed stainless steel handle and do like brass accents and brass feet, like the whole thing. It's gonna look very pimp. It's
I'm
gonna be
sure it is gonna
pimp
be
my
very
press,
extra.
pimp my press for sure.
I appreciate-
Exhibit is gonna be at my house,
Well, all I gotta say,
going all like
it's gonna look like a 1962, like a rebuilt like Ford.
No,
one of
you-
those like, yeah, it's gonna look like one of those rebuilt cars. And
yes,
can,
an
you're
old
gonna
an
take
old
it
Ford
to-
pickup.
You're gonna take it to Art Deco weekend and just stand there and be like, "This is my my sandwich press from El Año de la Guacara."
That's it. That's it. I'm just gonna put some wheels on it and drive it around town, low ride it. No, I think my inspo is kind of like those Italian espresso makers. You know how they look
Okay.
so beautiful and shiny. They're almost like showpieces, and that's my inspo for it. So,
Okay, well, I will
So
be
we'll-
hitting
we'll-
up your house for sandwiches.
well, I will keep the people updated when I hear because it's gonna be a couple weeks. It's gonna be out
You
of
should have
service.
a sandwich party.
Yeah, yeah. I had like a little warm up party. My brother came over, my cousins, like everybody came through this weekend and we're eating sandwiches. And as soon as I saw like that joy and frankly how easy it was for me to like feed lots of people, I was like, this thing needs a place in my household. So I'm very excited to see how it's
I can't wait. You are
it's
so
gonna fit
extra.
in. I can't wait. Like I can't. I was calling my brother. I was like, I can't wait. You got to see how this thing is. It's gonna look awesome. So I'll keep you updated. I'll keep you apprised. You'll see. It's gonna be awesome. What else do we have going on? Oh, I think we should talk about the Top Chef that we lost last week.
Right.
Yeah. So Howie Kleinberg was a Miami chef. He was on season 3 of Top Chef. Really like a local. He was like a local chef forever. He's he's only 46 years old, and he died of a heart attack last week, over last weekend, and Howie was a guy that was spent most of the times in like as kind of almost in catering kitchens or like commercial kitchens, really a behind the scenes guy. He was not really like a famous guy. Like it almost seemed like that wasn't even his interest, and he got on season 3 of Top Chef, and he became, they cast him as his mom said, as
Like
the
the
heavy,
heavy.
yeah, the foil, but overall, like from everybody that I've heard from, just a really sweet guy, very nice man. His cooking and his career, like he kind of came to it in his 20s, like really figured out that that's what he wanted to do, and it really became his life, and unfortunately, we don't have I didn't really get into his mom with the details of what, but he died of a heart attack, and
Very young.
very young,
Very
46
young.
years
That's
old,
really sad.
and it really just kind of put a shock. But he was a great, when he was a great Top Chef contestant. I remember kind of looking through some history when I wanted to write about, write his obituary, because sometimes you write an obituary and you're aware that it's the last thing that's going to be written about a person in many cases, in many cases. So you really want to be able to capture little pieces of them that tell about who they are. And there was this great clip where he prepared some dish and apparently it was late getting to the table, or how they have to get the thing to the table or whatever, And I don't know if it was disqualified or what have you, but Anthony Bourdain was the chef, and he starts reading him the riot act about like how the most important thing is getting, the dish, getting it out, and usually everybody stays quiet after one of those like finger wags, and he fired back and he goes, well, actually, in your book Kitchen Confidential, you say, and he just like it totally disarms Bourdain. He's like, you say that if you are screaming and you demand for a dish, they will give you the dish even if it's not ready or even if it's wrong. And he's like, so I'd rather wait an extra minute and make sure the dish is right. And it was like one of those moments about like, that's who this guy is. Like he was like, take no guff, but also was very professional about his thing, and he had a restaurant for, I want to say 9 years, called Bulldog Barbecue up on North Miami Beach. I forget where the line is there, but yeah, so
Our condolences to his family. It's a real big loss
it's a real big loss.
for Miami.
It's a real big loss. What else do we have going on, Amy? What's
There's a new restaurant in Hialeah.
Oh, right. I'm
Yes.
telling you, Hialeah's what's next. How is this one? Tell me about
This
this
one is Cuban Italian. Cuban Italian, and it's called
La Romanita.
La
Yeah.
Romanita. And so they have like, they make fresh pasta and all that stuff, but then they also have a pizza with like pulled pork on it. So they're really doing a lot of different stuff, and it started by a local guy. And so I haven't been there yet. Connie wrote about it. It sounds really interesting, and it might be another reason to sneak up to Hialeah. One of the most interesting things I read about it, though, was that it's near Amelia Earhart Park, which is
Perfect.
the most extreme,
And more extreme.
the most extreme park in my.
Where you can mountain bike and break your leg, but also go out on the lake with one of those paddle boats.
Exactly. But then
Pet some
okay,
animals.
so
You can pet
the
some
way that
animals too.
The way that they pitched the story, Carlos, was they were like, it's in the Amelia district.
Oh, stop that.
Hialeah. And
No,
I was
stop
like, oh my
that.
God, there's an Amelia district in Hialeah. Wow, I have to go.
You know, if you want people to hate a place, start making up districts. Start making up districts wholesale
No, man,
that have
I'm about to make all the districts in Kendall. Kendall's gonna have so many districts.
It's very New York like where you burrow everything. Everything is a borough, and it's like it doesn't have,
Yeah,
It's you
I'm
can
gonna
just
make
say
a
it's
weekend. It's like West Kendall. SoCen, South Kendall.
South Kendall, SoCen. I like that.
Weppy, West Pinecrest.
West Pinecrest,
Yep.
Ena, East Naples.
There you go.
All right, I'm getting there.
Sorry.
No,
Anyway,
but
there's
you
a
know-
nice new restaurant in Hialeah. Hialeah deserves nice things. Así que.
Cuban Italian, I will say, is a little bit of a thing. Anytime you have a cosmopolitan city, you're gonna get people from around the world. And I remember my godmother, Angelina. Her name was Angelina Valenti. She was married to this Italian guy, Vin Valenti, and he taught my uncle how to make this version of a pasta that has like. It's got like ham and it uses butter in the sauce and like it's got like these kind of Cubanish flavors. And then they later lived in New York, so imagínate, that everything was like that combination of Cuban and Italian. And it's like I learned that pasta dish from my late uncle and I make it for my kids and my kids really like it,
Nice.
And so like it's a thing. So I'm curious. I'm
Hialeah's
curious
on
to
the map.
see. Yeah. And they love their Cuban pizza.
I'm
Which
sure.
eventually I have to write something about Cuban pizza, right?
Yeah, you
You've
have
been
to
on me.
introduce me. I've been here so long. I've only had one Ray's pizza. I don't even think it's called Ray's pizza. I think it's called Ray Pizza.
Ray pizza. Ray pizza.
But I've only had it once, and I feel like I need to revisit Ray Pizza.
Yeah, no, we're gonna do that, and I'll give you the sordid background of the political fight between Ray Pizza and Montes de Oca Pizza.
Yeah, that's a whole nother show, Carlos.
That's a whole other show, but we'll get to that. So what do you think? I think it's time that we get to our guests. We've kept them waiting long enough, but
Definitely. He
trust
doesn't want to
us.
hear about our sandwiches anymore.
It will be worth it. It will be worth it. So our guest today is Randy Alonso. Now Randy took on a tough job recently, resurrecting Fox's Lounge. So he and his business partner Chris Hudnall spent the last 3 years renovating a bar that had been open for 69 years in South Miami until it closed in 2015. So rather than build a new place from scratch and just slap the old neon sign on it, Randy looked at preserving what made it popular. It was like a dark old bar with lots of history, familiar food. And really what it was, he recognized that Miami's history is constantly getting, bulldozed over and remade. And people want places with some kind of history, even if they have to find it in an old dive bar. He already kind of did this with his bar downtown, Lost Boy, which uses these nostalgic touches to make the place feel like it's been there for 50 years. So I really wanted to talk to him because he's got some personal history about like places being lost because he's of Cuban descent, born and raised in Miami, and about kind of preserving history and that longing that Miami has for like keeping our stuff, stop knocking our stuff down. So come on in, Randy. Looking forward to talking with you. How are you, man? Hear us okay?
Hi.
Great.
Yeah, I can hear you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, man, it's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. Like, I'm really genuinely curious because people really responded to this place. Like, they were so excited to see it back. And then when they saw some of the pictures that you guys shared, they loved seeing that it looked like the place that had always been there. So talk to me a little bit about how you approached this project. Like, why was it important for you to just like, to get to that level of detail? And tell us a little bit about that because you really got into the weeds with it.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely got into the weeds with it, and our group, we have a lot of different concepts that we bring to Miami, especially this year. And this one in particular, it's amazing to see what kind of response the community has had to it. The memories, the people I haven't talked to in 30 years who've have come out the woodworks to reach out and are so excited. It's just been a great connector for our group. And it's really it's the only concept that we have going on that we didn't originally create. That we are it was a concept that started in 1946 and then went through three different iterations.
What's been the most interesting or the most bizarre anecdote that someone has told you about their connection to Fox's Lounge?
Oh, geez. There's maybe a couple that need to be censored.
Give us
Listen,
the PG version.
we can just mark this episode as explicit. It's fine.
I think Fox's was a place where relationships were made and relationships were broken. There's stories of there's dark corners where maybe some people who weren't supposed to be together were hanging out.
It's dark enough.
I have seen this when I posted this on Reddit. I got a lot of stories of I used to see a lot of couples here that were not couples when the lights were on, that were different couples when the lights were on. Yes.
Yep.
El Cuerno Corner. I love that. You need to.
There's the Cuerno Corner right there. That's the Cuerno Corner.
We're calling that's the Fox's Den.
Oh yeah.
It's got little. It's a good little private corner. Look, there was even some of the myths of the upstairs, 2-bedroom, inn being maybe hourly. So.
The inn. Perfect. Perfect. That makes me think of remember there was a bar. You grew up down here, and we'll get to your Miami credits, but I'm thinking of there was a bar called Mystique, which everybody called Mistake, and it's over Doral adjacent. It's at the edge of the airport, and there was a bar connected to a Days Inn. Con eso te lo digo todo. So, and now it's a brewery. It's Beat Culture Brewery, and it's still attached to a Days Inn. So I'm just saying, I know people gonna
bad
freak
decisions
out.
can still be made.
Yes.
That's a fun area. I mean, like Miami Springs, that. It was, my mom, when she first moved here from New Jersey, she lived in Miami Springs area, right north of the airport. And there's a lot of highlights not too far off.
Yeah.
Oh, you always got
go a
the
little
pink
bit further west.
pussycat. Well, you had.
You had. Now it's now it's a weird black box of a place.
Yeah,
It's
now
very
it's like
odd
a
looking.
swingers club or something.
Oh, gross. That is gross. I didn't think it could be grosser than a strip club, but here we go. Hold my beer. Oh yeah. So what's your Miami background? Because you're born and raised down here, right? You gotta we have to place you by knowing where you went to high school, because that's how we'll wrap our brain around you.
Which is good, because I would say I grew up in Coral Gables. I was born and raised. My mom's American and my father's Cuban. Literally, father short little Cuban man with an accent, and my mom blonde hair, blue eyed girl from New Jersey.
Nice.
So Ricky and Lucy, right there.
Perfect.
And I went I went to elementary school in South Miami at St. Thomas Episcopal.
Yep.
And then I went to high school at Palmer Trinity.
Okay.
So where I had lived, I would say I spent the majority of my life at that intersection of US 1 and Red Road. So not so far away from Fox.
So you were a fan of Swenson's. We were talking about Swenson's earlier. Were you there all the time?
I loved Specs. I'd go and buy all my CDs at Specs.
Right next to it. And what do you think of Amy's idea? Do it were we talking about that before?
No, he wasn't there. I was talking about how the Fox's looks like the R version of Swenson's. It has kind of the same vibe.
Old time dark vibe.
Yeah, you get the Sunday. Yeah.
You can leave the kids at Swenson's.
Was a little bit brighter.
You can leave the kids
at
Swenson's and then go over to
Sunset Drugs. Remember Sunset Drugs?
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like the back when we had S&S Diner. It was you had your pharmacy next to the little diner where you would sit in the stool. That was just up the road there.
Corner of Bird and 57th there, and
you must have had opinions when they built Sunset Place.
Oh yeah, I mean, I mean, I was still in high school when they were finishing it up, and it was a good spot for teenagers for us to run around
A
still. But
hundred
yeah, I mean, I
percent.
love
Yep.
Bakery Center. The
Yep.
smell from Bakery Center is great.
Yeah. Yeah. Billy Corbin was talking about
Was
this
it
the other
Bakery
day.
Center or was it
Yeah.
Bakery Center
Bakery
and
Center.
Miracle Mile?
I think they were going to
Yeah.
open either it was there or they were going to open Bakery Center there. But it like never materialized into what they had hoped it was, and it became Sunset Place, which became the teen hangout. So you have a lot of connection to that area, but you were to or did you ever get to Foxes? Did you ever get to Foxes as a young man? Probably not, is my guess.
I would say in my maybe college years. So I
Hmm.
probably was hitting the tail end of when really people were loving it, from the, that 70s to the, 2000s,
Right.
when George Andrews had it, who's the second owner. I would be technically the fourth.
Cool.
Um, so, but I have a lot of friends who have their own stories. I feel like one of the bigger ones is that back liquor store window didn't seem to card people. So, yep, there
Yeah.
you go.
Well, there you
There's a
go.
picture of it. You can
It's a
see it. Yeah.
Ventanita. You have a liquor
It's
Ventanita.
it's a
Yes.
Ventanita.
Miami
We can
does
vent
not play
we can
when it
Ventanita
comes to
everything in Miami,
Ventanitas.
man. And so you guys are going to do a version of the liquor store, right? Is it going to have the little takeout window, or how are you guys going to do that?
Yeah, so that the Fox's Den photo you saw there, that actually is the old liquor window, which still exists. Right there on that left is that liquor window,
Oh, okay.
because we kind of flip flopped.
Oh, you changed the layout.
I got you.
The layout changed because there were some windows that were put in by a previous iteration developer on the front, which obviously Fox's isn't in place for windows. So
Hmm.
we kind of flip flopped it and we put the lounge in the back. We rebuilt almost the same room, shape wise. And then on the front end, we're going to do the liquor store. So uh, I think what we've already kind of discussed what kind of footprint we want the liquor store to have, because it was really just a window. You never walk inside anywhere. You just walk up to it. And I think the response has been so great with just our first weekend of opening that we want to make sure that we have enough lounge space. So I think we might carve out a little bit more room for the lounge now and do a little bit more of a window style.
Nice.
Do you feel like I'm curious coming up with the idea because I've seen so many places remade into cocktail bars. All of a sudden, a place becomes a cocktail bar. It's a high heel and shiny shoe place, and the menu is upscale, and all of a sudden, it doesn't feel like a corner place that you can go to on the regular. It no longer feels like a place that's accessible. It's a place you have to dress
Get
up
dressed up
for,
for.
and that seems like the antithesis of a place like this. So number one, is that kind of what you're aiming for, kind of like a low key place? And how do you do that? How do you keep, especially with real estate prices being what they are, and you got to charge what you got to charge? Like, how do you keep a place cool and low key accessible without making it like a place to see and be seen? Actually, the opposite of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because when we opened Lost Boy downtown, it was a little bit of that same mentality. So I think that was 5 years ago now, or close to it. So it's a little bit, I think, in our DNA of how we like to approach some of these projects, in that, we don't, sure, we might have a really extensive gin program at Tropezone. And we can play around, be fancy with, but at Lost Boy, it was always about maybe like straightforward cocktails, maybe a little twist here and there. But there's a time and place to like have the garden herbs, with the, smoke, sage dust, or, going
Right.
around it sort of thing. But we really like, the places we enjoy in the world. And, you mentioned Anthony Bourdain before, and it's kind of, his vibe, and, this place, his favorite bar in Miami was the Deuce.
Yeah.
But there's like in Venice, there's a place very similar to a Fox's Lounge called Shay J, which was his favorite bar there. And it's like, you can sit down and you can have like a really good, like pan fried snapper. And then like just a Jameson on the rocks, and like some of that like contrast and simplicity, I think really drew us to how Fox's, you had prime rib night. Prime rib's not an easy thing to do. That's
Sure.
why it's usually one night a week. But what's your beer selection? Bud Light, Michelob Ultra. You know, it's like there's something that I feel gets lost sometimes in what everybody wants to be too creative about. You know, chefs, I think happens a lot. Like, you know, is being a chef the actual technique in cooking, or is it where you sourced it from? Even though you didn't make it, you know, you found the best source of that jamon iberico. That's
Right.
still like, you're still being a chef, even though you're not the one who actually did it. So like, I think approaching cocktails that way as well. It's like, doesn't have to be overthought.
Cool.
So what's the menu like at the new Fox's Lounge, the dining menu?
So we made a couple edits, but so part of our process of this, you know, we've called former owners, former employees. You know, one person leads to three other people, which leads to three others who turns out to be my niece's water polo coach, who, you know, knows so and so across town. Like, you know, and so we've gotten a lot of iterations of the old menu, which we studied. We went through with old sous chefs who had been in that kitchen back in the day, to the wife of the original chef, and like, how did he, you know, approach this dish? We even contacted the same vendors and found invoices of what they used to purchase.
You guys
So we
got
know,
nerdy about it. You went
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the comments
Yeah.
I've seen online, like, here's what I've seen. Are there thumb bits, which is what they call like those steak tips, right? Are there thumb bits on the menu, which is like steak bits on like a garlic toast? Is there still a jukebox,
Yeah.
and is it free, or do you have to know a code for parts of it to be free? Like, those are like some of the, and is it still dark? One guy was like, I don't know, it seems pretty light from here. And it's like, what are the pictures supposed to look like? So is it dark? Is there a
Yeah.
jukebox? And is the menu still kind of familiar, you know?
Well, we got all three. The jukebox isn't hooked up currently. We had a little mishap in transit, so it got fixed. But
Okay.
it'll be free, and so it's getting plugged in sometime in the next week. Thumbits, oh yeah, that's their number one. It's been the number one seller since we
Oh my
opened.
God, you guys back up. What are thumb bits again? They're
Yes,
steak
explain
what?
these, because I didn't know until I did a little search through our LexisNexis files.
Yeah, so it is an old dish. It wasn't created by Foxes, but it was definitely made popular there. And it was the only, you know, when you're looking it up, there's always like a little iteration here and there. But, you know, I learned this as well. It's actually the leftover pieces you could buy from a butcher, the leftover pieces of when they're cutting the filet mignons. So you're gonna have all these little, like, they look like little thumbs, like little tips of the tenderloin that you can actually purchase from the butcher, from the vendor. And then we sear them and we put them on garlic toast. So it's almost like a little like snack appetizer. And then we have the au jus from prime rib night right in the center. So you kind of have these like little like
Oh my God,
garlicky,
that sounds
toasty
amazing.
bites. Yeah, it's
It's like
really
a meat.
good.
It's like a meat bruschetta
That sounds amazing. I want
Yeah.
that now.
or meat
Yeah.
bruschetta for our Italian audience. That's cool, man. I mean, I honestly, like, I have not seen this kind of interest in a place
It's been a while.
for a long time. The other one, and you and I talked about it when we were talking about you know, the opening last week. Like, it reminds me of Tobacco Road, where like
Yeah.
the spot was gone. So they asked Matt Kusher, can you make this feel like Tobacco Road? And he is
Channel
a very
its spirit.
yes, and he's like a very legit guy. He's not like trying to pull one over on you. So he has parts where it say, this shit ain't the real Tobacco Road. But he has a lot of elements and brought back, he signs, you know, that because he worked with the original owners, and to give it a feel. And I mean, people like it, you know, they knowing that it's not supposed to be the original thing, but like recreating some dishes. And so there's got to be an element of that too, right? Is like acknowledging that people want to keep a little bit of their history.
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely, and you can see it in the response. People had a yearning for it. You know that, you know, we are losing a lot of these, you know, these places, and you know, it's natural evolution of neighborhoods, and that's why we have historic preservation, and we, you know, especially for us, you know, we're downtown people. You know, we started in downtown Miami, which, you know, still hasn't had its like full renaissance yet, you know, where other neighborhoods have been built out, and, you know, you have all these historic buildings. You know, it's difficult But to have that connection, and we, to see the demographic that we had, our first weekend, when you have 20-year-olds sitting next to 80-year-olds,
Oh wow.
like in the same room, same darkness, like,
That's pretty cool.
and we said early on, this is going to be the hardest thing we do because everybody's got a memory, and if we're not meeting that little bit, maintaining a little bit of that integrity of it, it's going to be, people are going to, oh no, that's not it. So, we have a road ahead of us to prove ourselves.
Well, I think every generation needs a Cuerno corner, so I think they can all relate to that.
Yep.
There you go.
You mentioned downtown, and downtown is going through that, like you said, just in little bits, but there's so much. Downtown, in a way, feels like all of this has all of this potential. Like, what's that corner? It's like the old U.S. Mail building that's getting the guys from Biscayne Bay Brewing are opening a brewery in there, and like they're redoing.
Istanbul.
Right, and they're redoing the clock outside. Like there was a clock there on that corner. Was like there's a clockmaker that's that's redoing that whole clock, and I know that because I have a watch that needs to have a metal part made, and that is the only guy in South Florida that can make parts for old watches and clocks. So like there is like an opportunity to kind of to renew rather than to raise and build,
And destroy and
new.
rebuild.
Yeah, especially in downtown.
Especially downtown, but it's the difficult thing to do because it's, between building a house new or renovating it or call it a commercial business, like, it's sometimes easier to, not work around that pipe that you can't move.
Right.
And in downtown, has multiple of factors why maybe it hasn't really turned that corner, which, it is. And we used to own a building that we sold to the same group who did the post office, the Istanbul group, and they're the old Walgreens building. So that's where my family's department store was until about 2016. And so they got a whole project there where they're doing, a food hall, and there's going to be restaurants, and it's just.
Oh, isn't that like the something in the Julia?
Yeah, I don't know if they've announced it. So I think it's Julia and Henry.
Yeah, Henry and Julia, something like that. I remember we'd heard about it.
Yeah, it's all out there, and they have a lot of local chefs. I think Mike Beltran might have a spot in there too, and the Box Elder guys I think are gonna do something in there too. It's a lot of local folks.
Cool.
Yeah, no,
which is gonna be great for when we started Lost Boy. Downtown. I'd been 15 years living there. We had been downtown for 50 years as a family. With the store, but never had like a neighborhood bar, never had a staple, never had something that you knew that you could have a seat at the bar. You knew that you were going to get a consistent drink. And that was one of the voids we felt that we wanted to fill with Lost Boys. Like, let's not, we like our history. We like, putting our little, maybe tchotchkes or, trinkets or, family furniture in there, but let's also just make sure that it's something that is consistent. It's not the turn and burn.
So do you guys have a lot of regulars? Is Lost Boy like a bar where regulars come in like every week and you see them all the time? It's like Cheers.
Do you know what one of our best months is?
What?
August.
Oh, that's funny. When all the
tourists are gone.
They're all gone. Yeah, it's amazing. We really, we have a really good happy hour. That was the other thing with pricing. Like, we always wanted to make sure that someone was looking at their check and saying, okay, let's come back here a little more often. Mm-hmm. So we have a half off happy hour, so you get a pint of beer for $4. So a lot of the, downtown has 200,000, downtown, not even Brickell, downtown has 200,000 workers who commute in and out every day.
Yeah.
That's the kind of, and they might live down next to Fox's, in South Miami.
Right. Yeah, no, and honestly, I think it's one of those rising tide things. Like the corner is one of those places that's been there for a long time. Like, and now you have like you guys are there. Mama Tried is there, which is that's another great bar. Like you walk in, and you're like, this place feels like it's been here for a long time. Jaguar Sun guys, like if you have one destination, it's not as interesting as if you have many destinations where people can hop to and go around to. And I think that you guys are just like. You guys are riding just the beginning of that crest, which must be exciting,
And I tell you, I've in Miami, I was in retail, and I felt disconnected. I didn't feel, as passionate as even though my grandfather and father, they loved it, and maybe I'll never see the days that made them fall in love with retail. But, I'm new to hospitality, and you're talking about Dan Binkowitz or, Gabe and the lot from Bar Lab and
we're at Margot over there, right?
Yeah, they're at Margot, and I was just blanking on Corner. But it's just everyone's such a small community, and everyone's so close still. And I love that we all are in competition and in support of each other. And I didn't feel that in retail.
Right. Yeah, I can see it. And you mentioned the idea of the family-owned department store is very much like Mad Men era type of thing, like Menken's department store. Like those things had their moment. Like your family's was La Época, right? Like they had a department store downtown.
Yeah.
What kind of clothes would they sell? Just everything? Or was it specific, for quinces or for dressing up? Or?
Yeah, were you getting your Bugle Boy jeans down at
my Pacific Ocean shirts and
your OP shirts?
Yeah, but we had we had an electronics department. I got my Nintendo games there.
Oh, wow.
So in Cuba, it was a whole city block. 5 stories. Very, very big. When we moved it here, or we lost it and we restarted it in downtown, it became 10,000 square feet. But this was heyday of the 80s in downtown Miami, where we had a women's boutique that sold Christian Dior. We had electronics department, we had luggage department, and that kind of stayed through. And I think it had gone through its ups and downs. And when I came to the business with my brother, we started selling Polo Ralph Lauren and Lacoste, a lot of these name brands that a lot of South Americans were traveling to Miami for. But that ended, that around mid 2000 teens, a lot of, people can go online now. It doesn't matter where in the world, you can get it delivered to you. You don't need to travel to shop.
Right.
So you since you've been in downtown Miami for all this time, what is the change that you're seeing that has you most concerned about the development going on in downtown Miami?
Concerned or excited?
Well, I mean, there can be both. There can definitely be both.
Yeah. Well, look, I think, being a landlord for a little bit here, and we were our own tenants. I think it always does start with the vision of property owners, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who can decide whether they want to renovate their building, want to put the right tenant there, sign the right lease. I'm very fortunate with the group family that owns the DuPont building has vision for their building. They've been able to support us in so many ways to be successful in our right as a tenant. So seeing now there's finally some turnover over the last 5 years of new property owners who are coming in to invest. And I think that hadn't happened in a long, long time. So that's the exciting part. I hope that those property owners will provide, offer the right leases, have the right vision, and I think Mana is being a big one. Moish Mana, who has a lot of property here, but a group like Stamble, for example, we took our building to only a certain level, and now they're taking it to the next, and that needs to happen. The Flagler Street is finally getting renovated. 15 years.
Yeah, and it feels like it's 15 years they've been working on it. I know that. Yeah.
My father was on the DDA board, and the year before he passed, he had started the task force to get the street renovated. And that was 2011, 2010. So it's it's been, a long time.
Yeah. And there were a couple of years there, in the last 3 or 4, or 4 or 5, where it was just there was a little bit of a standstill. And I know some restaurants just places in general, they were struggling to just find a niche. But I guess it has to go through that before they. But it's, I think people are waiting, you mentioned Moishe Mana. He's got a lot of properties, and now it's are you going to develop them, or are we still going to be? Are you holding on to these blighted properties that we still have to live and drive through and live in and drive through? You know, and like, or can we get the ball rolling on it and do some cool Miami stuff? You know.
I mean,
So
I'll even throw it back on my own government because I've been looking at the Olympia Theater with scaffolding on it for about 20
exactly,
years.
I know.
exactly.
That's
You
the
know?
truth.
Yeah, my fiance was just there for the Van Gogh show, and it's like you walk inside and it's this incredible theater, but you have to literally
Incredible.
dodge construction to get inside of it. And you know the city has the
Yeah.
money to do it. They have the money to just go ahead and pull the trigger and just finish it, just fix it and finish it. But it's the very slow turning wheels of government. You know.
Don't forget the 20 years of code enforcement fines that they're going to need to pay. If this was one of us and we hadn't fixed our building and put illegal scaffolding around it, they would have made us pay a fine.
Right, right. I'm sure that
If you
you
would have
look at
had
that place
scaffolding
every day.
outside of a building for like a generation, you for sure would have been fined.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
100%.
Well, man, I think that what you guys have created is very interesting, and it sounds like people are really responding to it. And I'm eager to get. I don't live far from it. I obviously know that area pretty well, so I'm eager to get down myself and check it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a regular because I'm a Deli Lane regular. That's where we go.
Oh,
That's where we go
Deli
on
Lane.
Sundays. We
Love-
have our little table set up there every Sunday because they got the $6 mimosas. So this can be my after hours spot.
Yeah, yeah. That's the other hard part of you're in there at like midnight and it's this like, almost scene from a Martin Scorsese film, like, red booths and dark. And I'm like, wait, but this is exactly what it looks like at noon.
Yep.
You're having lunch in there. It's like you fully don't know the world exists outside.
You want it
sure.
to be like a casino where you stumble outside. You don't.
You're
You've
like,
lost
"What day
track
is
whether
it?"
it's night or day. Is it still Tuesday? I don't even know.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, before we let you
It's,
go,
yeah.
no, I was
Go
gonna say
ahead.
before we let you go, we have to ask you to play our Kiss Mary Kill game with food. So like you being a
Oh,
Miami guy,
alright.
we got to give you three of our staples, right? We have cafecito cubano, we have pastelitos, and croquetas. It's like that's our Miami street food. So what do you say? Kiss, marry, kill. Who are you gonna kiss? Who are you gonna marry? What are you gonna kill?
Well, I can do it in any order.
In any order.
You can kiss, marry, kill, and
I-
whichever.
I do not like sweets. I'm not a dessert guy. So pastelito out the door.
Afuera.
Wow, okay.
Afuera.
Okay.
Now that's hard. Now I got
Now you get stuck
cafecito.
between the croqueta and cafecito.
I'm gonna take a guess.
it-
I'm gonna take a guess. You seem
My
like a coffee
arteries-
guy. You seem like a coffee guy. Are you a coffee guy?
I am a coffee guy, and they say that smell is your closest, sense to memory.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always feel like maybe you also smell when you taste, but I'll taste something and it brings me back to like the exact moment.
Mm-hmm.
And like having a shot of real Cuban coffee, whether it's at the Ventanita or not, brings me back to 3:00 in my family's department store where they would bring it out to everybody,
Oh my
staff,
gosh.
customers, and it brings me back and I get a little emotional like about it because like it brings me back to like my father, like and us like it like instantly that taste can just bring me back to that memory. So I'd have to marry my cafecito and I'll kiss my croqueta.
Yeah, that delivering coffee, no matter what's going on and who's arguing with who, it is funny to see it. Like for us, my dad had a little mom and pop jewelry store. For them, it was like 2:00 was the time when they'd come out with a little tray of cafecito. He'd come out, he'd make coffee, and we'd all sit. And if there were some clients out front, everybody got Cuban coffee. And it's such a cultural touchstone.
Yeah.
Man. So
Oh, I figured you were a
Awesome.
coffee guy. You just
yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it, Amy. Well, Randy, man,
It's
thank you
my
so
work,
much. For,
my working cowboy hat.
I do like that. I do like. What's the story on that hat?
Well, so if I have a second more, is like Lost Boy is the
Yeah,
name
you
of
have
the
all the
ski
time.
run. So Lost Boy is the name of the ski run that I learned how to ski with my father on. So
Okay.
a lot of family. I'm one of 6 kids, And so, my brother and I, when we were thinking of denim, because it was, Lost Boys was supposed to be a denim shop to start. Denim started in the Colorado mines. And we'd always go out to Colorado. And so Lost Boy, that's the generation of our name. But, I still just like, I don't know. I think I'm like a Guajito at heart. It's like, I love Western culture. I love, cowboy movies. I love spaghetti Westerns. And so this is my little, Lost Boy touch.
But bro, you got to get the Cuban straw hat. You got to do that, but in the Cuban straw hat. That's if you want to fully inhabit your Guajiro roots, we'll do that. Actually, I have my dad's old hat that for the next episode I'm gonna wear it. I'm gonna wear my Guajiro hat.
There you go. Okay.
Oh, that's cute.
For sure, I'm gonna do
I
it.
want to see it.
Randy, thank you so much for making the time, man.
Yeah,
It was great to have you on, and we wish you the best of luck with preserving little bits of Miami rather than steamrolling it. So
We'll be
thanks
there.
for that.
We'll be there. We're gonna be in the Fox's Den soon.
Can't wait to host you guys.
All right, man. Be good.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Oh man, I'm gonna totally be up in that place all the time.
Yep.
It's near my house.
There are a few places that feel that you can just walk into. Honestly, the places that are left like that are like there's this grubby little Duffy's Tavern that's over on 57 near where he was saying. That's on Red Road, right around the Core Way area, and it's like this dark little place with like some broken down cars out front, like classic cars that don't run, and it's like, a place where you can go in for $4 after work and meet up with somebody and be very low key, and the music isn't going and nobody's taking selfies. You know what I mean?
I can't make any promises. I'm gonna be in the dark room, like.
I hope that they have a bouncer that every time
kicks
one
me
of those anytime one of those LED lights come on, you get a warning, and on the second time they drag you out by the hair.
Don't mess up the vibe here. Your little LED lights are ruining our darkness.
Yeah, I would have a spot in the bathroom where you could take a picture away from everybody.
That's smart.
Yeah, that's where I would do it. Amy, I feel like maybe that's a show.
Yep, that's a show.
All right, so I'm gonna try to replace you with a.
I am irreplaceable, Carlos.
With some kind of guest next week
You get a
while
cheap
you're out.
imitation. That's all you're gonna get.
No, I'm gonna. It's always gonna be a cheap substitute, but we'll try to keep it going until through this very vacationy August. But enjoy the time off.
All right.
You've earned it.
All right, till the next time.
Peace.
Peace.